Okay, so now we're on to the second motion in limine, which is she wants to bring in evidence that Baldoni, made comments about her weight, i.e., he asked what her weight was roughly to her personal trainer. Wayfarer saying this is fucking irrelevant. That there's no harassment claims left, and even the judge said, "Well, that's not sexual harassment." So let's see what Lively has to say about that. This is a really short part because there really isn't much to say about it anyway. Okay, opposition to defendant's motion limine number 2 to preclude evidence of alleged weight-related comments. Defendant's motion limine number 2 seeks to exclude evidence that Baldoni made comments about Lively's weight to her personal trainer. The motion should be denied for 3 reasons. First, Baldoni's weight-related comments are plainly relevant to Lively's FIHA retaliation claim, specifically to whether she reasonably and in good faith believed she was opposing unlawful employment practices. And one thing I will say, this really chops me off because health and safety and risk assessments are an integral part of most employment settings. So if someone is doing a lift, if someone is going to lift another person, whilst that person may not want to disclose their weight, there are, objectively very good reasons for, being aware of how much that person weighs in terms of managing that so it is safe for everyone, including, in this case, for Lively. Because had Baldoni attempted to lift her and, mishandled her, dropped her, whatever, or, picked her up awkwardly, it could have hurt her too. So she's making a big song and dance of this. What I'm expecting Wayfarer to do is point to the fact that she denied there was even a lift in the script. That was Lively's original position on this was, well, there weren't even a lift scene. So what are you talking about? I'm expecting them to pull out the book and say, well, here on this page is where Ryle lifts Lily. So Lively's talking out of her asshole, as usual. That is, to paraphrase, but that's kind of what kind of path I'm expecting Wayfarer to take on that. Is hold on a minute. She's inconsistent. She's already lied by denying there was even a lift scene. There was a lift scene. Ergo, Wayfarer at Baldoni were being responsible in trying to assess risk and make sure all health and safety was adhered to because of Baldoni's own pre-existing back complaint. That's where I'm expecting that to go. In retaliation cases, courts in the Second Circuit routinely permit evidence concerning the conduct and circumstances that led the plaintiff to engage in protected activity. The weight-related comments form part of the context in which Lively experienced and assessed Baldoni's conduct and therefore bear directly on the reasonableness of her belief that she was opposing unlawful behaviour. Second, contrary to defendant's assertion, Lively does not seek to introduce this evidence solely to portray Baldoni in a negative light or suggest a propensity to engage in inappropriate behaviour. The evidence is offered for a proper non-propensity purpose to establish Lively's state of mind, namely her good faith belief that she was opposing conduct prohibited by FIHA, as well as defendant's retaliatory motive and intent. If she thinks that this is evidence that she was opposing conduct prohibited by FIHA, then she's out of her fucking ever-loving mind. Because this is just ridiculous, and Lyman pretty much said as much. And I'm not sure what retaliatory motive or intent that she's alleging that Wayfarer would have based on this event either, because it was Ryan Reynolds who screamed at Baldoni for hours on 2 separate occasions, because he did it in April 2023 in front of Hugh Jackman and Taylor Swift, and then the January 4th meeting, the all hands meeting allegedly, where he screamed for 6 hours. So and that was just on that one occasion, but he did it for hours as well in back at the time in April 2023. So, I mean, why they gone so hard for a simple inquiry into weight is I I don't get it, but I can only assume that it is a trigger for Lively. It is like a specific weakness that she holds for herself, that she is very concerned with her body image. Um, Understandably to a point, given that she had only just weeks before given birth. I do get that. I do understand that. And obviously she is, set to be in a film which is due to have a global stage. So I understand that as well. But I do think that they went too far and too hard on this. Um, Nor do I think it's an indicator of, of assessing Lively. I think that's just ridiculous. She continues. Critically, Lively need not prove that Baldoni's conduct un- um, ultimately constituted actionable sexual harassment to prevail on her retaliation claim. It is enough that she reasonably believed it did. Whether the comments independently fall within the purview of the sexual harassment statutes is therefore beside the point. Moreover, as the court noted in its April 2nd order, evidence that an employer made weight-related comments to persons of one only gender could in certain circumstances help. I think that's supposed to be only one gender. Could in certain circumstances help demonstrate a hostile work environment based on sex. It was clearly not based on sex. It was based on the fact that the scene required Baldoni to lift Lively. He didn't need to make any weight-related comments or ask about weight. I mean, he's not made comments. I don't like the wordplay there. He's not made comments. He's made an inquiry about her weight so that he could train to lift safely, given his own back problems, and to make sure it was safe for Lively as well. And there's nothing there. It's not about sex. That's just it. I think this will be an easy one for Wayfarer to destroy if they do allow Don Saladino to testify, because quite clearly, what would be his purpose of asking about anyone else's weight, male or female? There is none. There was a purpose here. And I think Lively's just been, really fragile, overly fragile. Further, regardless of whether this particular comment was harassing or whether Lively could reasonably have believed it to be so, the court further explained that it is still relevant because it's still relevant context because sexual harassment claims must be viewed based on the totality of the circumstances. Finally, defendants' cursory Rule 403 arguments fail to show that the probative value of this evidence is substantially outweighed by any risk of unfair prejudice, confusion, or delay. There is nothing inflammatory or collateral about evidence of statements made by Baldoni to the same course of conduct that prompted Lively's complaint. Alleged retaliation. Defendant's reliance on Park West radiology is misplaced. Unlike the mini-trial concerns at issue here, where the court excluded evidence relating to separate fraud allegations by a non-party, the challenged evidence here concerns conduct by a central actor during the relevant time period, arising from the same working relationship that gave rise to Lively's complaint and the alleged retaliation. In addition, evidence relating to this incident would require 0 additional witnesses, and any documentary evidence concerning this event is likely to be separately admissible because it addresses other issues in this case, including but not limited to the contract rider agreement. Simply put, the presentation of this evidence will not in any way threaten to sidetrack the jury into unrelated disputes. I mean, I do think it's irrelevant, but she referenced it in the contract rider. Is one of the points like, do not discuss weight or make inquiries as to weight. Why that was necessary, I don't know, because at that point it was, 6, 7, 8 months after the event. And yeah, I don't know. And they will bring in the fact that she openly talked about her weight. She talked about wanting to push back body scenes. When Justin Baldoni didn't actually say yes to that, she went to her talent agency, WME, and asked them to try and fix it for her, and they didn't actually agree either. Then she went to her manager, Justin Gray Stone, to try and fix it. So, but they will also bring in. So Lively is expected to bring in the fact that Justin Baldoni was obsessed with my weight. He spoke to my personal trainer. He then went and tried to hook me up with a weight loss management consultant, and we've all seen that questionnaire that Lively herself completed, where she inquired about weight loss. For Baldoni, it was just about prebiotics, probiotics, and in just helping her out because she was constantly getting sick and on a lot of antibiotics, and he was trying to be helpful for the health of her and the baby who was breastfeeding. She is the one. It was a standard questionnaire. It was, one of the questions was, "Are you concerned about your weight, or would you like any advice?" She's the one that put yes. Baldoni never set her up with that nutritionalist to try and get her to lose weight. But the way she framed it was, well, it was untrue, basically. She completely mischaracterized it, blatantly lied, to be honest. Much like she did about, whether there was a lift scene or not. So I think Lyman is likely to allow it. I think he will probably allow this evidence, because she's right. It does actually go to the contract rider agreement. Although, and this is just me thinking out loud, it's referenced in the contract rider agreement, but it's not like she's claiming breach of that contract rider agreement. We all know my thoughts on that there is no contract. But let's just say there is, right? The only point in those entire 17 points that she's saying is breached is 17 itself, which is the extremely overly broad, do not do this, don't have a different expression on your face, don't be sarcastic, don't sigh, don't just have a demeanor that makes me uncomfortable. It was the most broadest contract term I've ever seen in my life, and it was so broad, I'm not even sure how you would enforce it. I don't know who is assessing that. It cannot be just like Blake Lively is deemed that you've breached this contract because you pulled a certain expression on your face. Like, what expression? How do you know that's negative? How do you know it's retaliatory to you? It's going to be an impossible term to enforce. But the I can't remember which point it is in the contract rider, but the reference to will not discuss anyone's weight. Well, that was never broken. That never happened again. So in the sense that she's trying to link it to the contract rider agreement, I suppose the only thing she can say, so it wouldn't go to the breach, but it might go to the part of the, well, this is why we wrote the contract rider agreement in the first place. It's one of the things, it's on there, it's one of the things we asked for. And I think there's about 3 things on there she could probably point to say, yeah, these are safety concerns, and the rest are all about, what she needed to, take over the film and get a PGA mark. And I'm expecting Wayfarer to tear it apart on that basis. So that is that. I'm going to do a separate video now, go into motion limine number 3 next. So let me know what you think, though. But I do think that Don Zaladino is likely to be able to testify purely because, as Lyman said, like, individually, that is ridiculous. It's not sexual harassment. But collectively, all of these things could go to a reasonable basis for Lively to believe that she had been, discriminated against due to her sex, gender, etc. So I think they will let him testify myself. But who knows?